So does it hurt more when you bite your tongue when you have golden teeth? Or does it hurt less? Or is it all just the same? What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Hey, another fun fact, I have 10 minutes to discuss how I feel about Neo-Egoist League Don Lorenzo. And I know some people are going to be like, Pencil, that's a little bit redundant. We only have him in the Neo-Egoist League. And to that I say, I'm keeping up with theme, alright? Let me cook. But with it being the case, let me start the 10-minute timer right now and talk about how well Lorenzo was used. Now, obviously, I, like everybody in the mama, kind of figured that Ubers was going to have to lose the game, right? Like, there was no way they were actually gonna clutch up. That'd be a little bit too crazy, a little bit too buku bonkers. But obviously, there were things in Ubers that needed to happen. And if there's one thing I have to say about the Ace Eater himself, Don Lorenzo, he allowed for everything in the Ubers game to happen. You want to talk about an in-game narrative facilitator, there's darn near no one better than Mr. Goldmouth Mighty Muncher himself, the Ace Eater. And let me tell you why. The biggest issue that the story of Ubers had to tell was not just the dynamic of Snuffy and Barou, which was obviously a massive one, which did need a facilitator, who I wonder who that would end up being, but also it was the idea of Isagi versus Kaiser as strikers. Obviously, the New Egoist League is a 4-game narrative structure, all about the dynamic between Isagi and Kaiser, but how do you allow it that Kaiser, this unstoppable force, this immovable object, this dangerous, this monstrous creature, would be stopped? He's invincible. He's the greatest striker we've ever seen. He's the new Gen 111, fastest shot in the world. Will create a character who literally exists to shut him down in every way, shape, and or form. And then have that character know that's literally their entire purpose, to the point where they latch onto him like a parasite and make sure he cannot do literally anything to compensate. As he always locks down Kaiser, allowing Isagi to realistically get a striker-style dub over Kaiser, because Kaiser's literally never allowed to be free because of Lorenzo. So that, on that front alone, would be like a 10 out of 10 facilitation for me. But like I mentioned, Lorenzo exists not just to facilitate the dynamic of Isagi and Kaiser and their whole role in the New Egoist League as two rival strikers, but he also exists to facilitate the dynamic between Barou and Snuffy, the core rivaling dynamic of Ubers versus BM. And of course, the best way he does this is by connecting to Barou through something as simple as, wait, did I close the tab? No. Okay, I lost the darn tab. But essentially, the major thing that Lorenzo does, I know I didn't, there it is. A major thing that Lorenzo does is allow Barou to even possibly understand Snuffy. By reaching out to Barou in a way that only Lorenzo can, with his big old mouth and his golden teeth and his very freaky self, he gives the bridge, or really acts as the bridge between Barou and Snuffy, allowing Barou to understand that Snuffy is a different kind of adult, a different kind of person, one that Barou can actually have faith in. And of course, Barou is disgusted. He wants Don Lorenzo to get away from him, but Lorenzo won't allow that due to the nature of his role as a facilitator. He facilitates the connection between Barou and Snuffy, and that allows for these two to actually lock in and create the other best dynamic of the New Egoist League, showing once again Don Lorenzo's role as a fantastic facilitator. And another thing that Don Lorenzo does is really help with the tragedy of Blue Lock, if you will. I would say the New Egoist League has like cranked up the sad backstories to the moon and back, and Don Lorenzo has one of the most tragic, once again showing the variety and truth of how many different people can end up in soccer, and showing the many different ways that those people can end up there. Obviously, Don Lorenzo's whole dynamic with Snuffy is one of subservience, once again, like a dog, as we see he literally does bark for him. So, do what you will with that. But at the same time, it sets up the loyalty, the structure of Ubers, while at the same time facilitating the connection between Barou and Snuffy, on top of showing why Lorenzo would be so subservient and giving a good reason to it. And explaining why Donny Boy would still end up being, seemingly enough, the weakest of the U20 the new Gen 11s that we've seen so far. Well, he definitely does have crazy defensive abilities, and he is this unstoppable wall for the most part. He can clearly be transcended, he can clearly be tricked, because he's all a man about individual ability. It is through this that Kaiser is allowed to escape, it's through this that Kaiser is allowed to go buku bonkers, it's through this that Kaiser scores the best goal in the entire manga. But that's the thing. Donny Boy exists to support multiple different narratives and do it very, very well. I've already talked about the Isagi Kaiser narrative. I've already talked about the Barou and Snuffy narrative. But what if I told you that Donny Boy even ends up supporting Hiori's narrative by being clip farmed? I'll be completely. It's literally just through clip farm. But still, with that being the case, I try to call him Donny Boy and Lorenzo at the same time. But Donny Boy pops up and supports Hiori by underestimating him, not understanding him, and being caught off guard, especially after Donny was set up as this crazy, unstoppable force, this immovable wall, something that could never be transcended. And with that being the case, he comes in to not just underestimate Hiori and allow Hiori to look really, really good because, oh wow, look at this top tier defender being outplayed by Hiori. Look how smart and dangerous Hiori is. But he also manages to show why Blue Lock is so dangerous, why there is actual merit to the program, on top of everything that we already know is merit to the program, by showing him getting clip farmed explicitly, by falling for the bait of Blue Lock's ideals, leading into the final goal setup that Hiori ends up going on to score with Isagi, both as dreamers. Without Lorenzo there, it would feel like this play that evolves both to a different level where they both react reflexively and create this perfect level, next level, top of the line, amazing goal, would not have the same impact if Lorenzo was not there to fall for it and take the bait. Now, of course, a lot of this is clip farming. A lot of this is aura farming. A lot of this feels hollow and vapid, doesn't it? If he's just there to facilitate other characters, what does he get from it? And that is admittedly the one teeny tiny weakness about a character who does so good at facilitating. Despite him having a very tragic backstory, despite him having a really cool design, despite him having really unique abilities, and allowing him to be set up as this really dangerous character that we need to work around, that's the thing. Lorenzo, in spite of his many quirks and freakiness and deviousness, he does sort of feel the most overt of the facilitation characters. The characters that mostly exist to do one or two things, look really, really cool, succeed in once or twice, and then immediately get clip armed for the rest of the game. But notably, I don't think it's a bad thing, solely for the fact that Lorenzo, kind of in a similar vein to say, isn't really implied to have done much of anything just yet. He hasn't developed his own ego. Of course, he has the whole zombie dribbling style that does get set up very early on in the game. But ultimately, outside of that, which seems to just be born of Snuffy's own predilections and his own ideas on how Lorenzo could use his body in different ways, we know for a fact that Lorenzo hasn't really reached a peak yet. He hasn't really had a reason to evolve. He hasn't really had a reason to develop himself beyond the point he's already at. He just started off so strong that he never really had to change. But now it's clear by the end of the Ubers game, and obviously throughout the rest of the Neo Aegis League, that Lorenzo now has a fire. Not just the money, obviously, as he respects the idea that the Isagi, Yoichi, and Hiori combo was worth 100 mil, 100 couple bands on it. Okay, I know it's more than bands, but with that being the case, Lorenzo is shown to not only not be tired at all, not sweating even slightly, showing that he wasn't going all out, but also his ego, or lack thereof, is proof that he still has so much more to go. Since this is a game, Ubers versus BM is a game of so many different character stories, so many different interactions and backstories, Lorenzo kind of couldn't get more than he already got, and he couldn't be more than a facilitator and a wall, because if he was, then I think the Ubers game, which already feels very, very long and very, very stuffed, would be overly stuffed, overly long, and not feel as coherent and tight as it does now on a reread. So ultimately, I think Lorenzo is going to come back, and I think he's going to be different, especially considering he's likely the new Gen World 11 rep for his country, and we are likely going to see him again, as we are likely to see all the new Gen World 11 in the U20 World Cup. I think we're going to see a Lorenzo who has changed, a Lorenzo who's developed, a Lorenzo who is beyond simply the role of the puppet, the ace eater, the facilitator, someone who, through experiencing Blue Lock, experiencing the passion behind it, and experiencing obviously Michael and all that, and seeing the dangers of the world, and realizing that he can still lose in many ways to many different people, I think he'll finally begin to play soccer for a different reason. Not just for the fat racks, not just for the big stacks, not just for the big max. He's going to start to realize that he can play for his own reasons, develop his own ego, and evolve in his own way. Will he still end up being a facilitator? Absolutely. But I would not be shocked if he is a character character who manages to go beyond the defensive role and possibly score a goal. If he is a character who's able to go beyond anything that the defense role has shown so far and create something entirely new. If he is the character, the new General 11 member that manages to surprise us the most by the time we see him again in the new Aegis League or in the U20 World Cup arc, considering he seems so suppressed and so tapped out during the game that would decide his fate. So overall, Donny Boy does a fantastic job. I like him. I love him. I wouldn't really change much of anything of how he's done in the Aegis League. In fact, I literally wouldn't change anything at all. He's really, really, really well executed. But of course, you know, that's just what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. I am currently now out of time. So if you made it all the way through this video, please leave Zombie Meat Muncher, ZMM Zombie Meat Muncher, in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the overcase spells you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you don't have a picture down below, or you can support me for as low as $1, get them on, things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions, so the series I have to review, add variations of all my videos, and if you become a $12 Patreon or a $12 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, the link to my co-founder down below. You drop 5 minutes for a short video, 20 minutes long video, or any bees at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I would like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Glacier, XZ, Zera, Brendan Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha Uda, Alex Kenny, Yuki Ally, Enzo, Nevis 97, Zachary Wilson, Azo 2404, Planet Crone, Rye Rich, G Prosper, Swift Strike, Alexicon, Striker Man, and Autumn Mornings Lazo. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our line art patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Dread Zoan, and A+A. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier members: Austin Wimberly, Euchia, and Shrimpo the Shrimp. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Waki Munoz and Waki Munoz. And a final thank you to our ultimate That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, Calvin's wife. Not Calvin Elder, who ultimately does have one of my kidneys, but now I must know, and I must undergo the process of getting the second one removed so I can send the other over to this wonderful family.